Hey, good morning, Hope Community Church. Yesterday we looked at Galatians chapter 1 and how important the gospel was and how shocked Paul was that the Galatian believers were accepting another gospel. And in chapter 2, he's going to remind us that the gospel isn't just an intellectual thing. It it permeates all of our lives and how we live and actually the way we live tells people the gospel that we believe. Um, in in the book of Galatians, Paul is addressing how some Judaizers, these are Jewish people that are Christians, but they're coming in and they're telling the Galatian church that you need to live a Jewish lifestyle uh, in order to be saved. And Paul says in Galatians chapter 11, talking about Peter, called Cephas here, he says, but when Cephas came to Antioch, I opposed him to his face because he had stood condemned. For before certain men came from James, he was eating with the Gentiles, but when they came, he drew back and separated himself, fearing the circumcision party. So, in other words, Paul's or Peter's having communion with these guys. He's having fellowship. He's eating food with them. So the Judaizers come in, and all of a sudden Peter stands back, and it's almost like he's saying, "I'm not associating with these people here." And Paul's going to confront him. He says, "And the rest of the Jews acted hypocritically along with him, so that even Barnabas was led astray by their hypocrisy." But when I saw that their conduct was not in step with the truth of the gospel, remember that's what Paul is defending throughout Galatians is the truth of the gospel. He said, "I said to Cephas before them all, if you, though a Jew, live like a Gentile and not like the Jews, how can you force the Gentiles to live like Jews?" I'll skip down to verse 16. He says, "For we know that a person is not justified by works of the law, but through faith in Jesus Christ, so that we who have believed in Jesus Christ in order to be justified by faith and not by works of the law, because by the works of the law no one will be justified." So Paul is saying here, it's not by our works, it's by faith in Jesus Christ. And those who have faith in Jesus Christ are called to live a certain way. There's some hypocrisy going on. There's segregation, and we could even say racism between Jews and Gentiles going here. And Paul's saying that's not the gospel. That's not the gospel that we live out. In fact, we skip down to verse 19. He says, "For through the law I died to the law, so that I might live to God." He says, "I have been crucified with Christ. So it is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. In the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself up for me." So these old divisions, these old ways of trying to be right before God, he says, I've died to that. I've put faith in Christ, and now Christ lives through me. So I live differently. I treat people differently. My life has been changed by Christ. So let's live out the gospel. Let's love people. Let's be people of faith. Love you and praying for you.